Are you constantly worried about messing up? Does that fear of not being good enough hold you back from the relationships, career, or just the life you really want? It's that quiet anxiety that runs in the background for so many of us, that little voice whispering, "What if I fail?" But what if a 2,000-year-old philosophy held the secret to finally breaking free from that anxiety for good? Now, this isn't about just thinking positive or ignoring your fears. This is about rewiring the way you look at failure itself. In this video, I'm sharing 5 ancient Stoic hacks that will completely transform how you see failure. And we're starting with a powerful idea from a man who went from being a slave to one of history's most influential thinkers. Hack 1. Master your inner citadel, the dichotomy of control. Our first hack comes from Epictetus, a man who endured the brutality of slavery to become a revered philosopher. His core teaching is revolutionary because it's so simple. Some things are up to us and some things just aren't. Epictetus taught that we only control our own opinions, choices, desires, and actions. Everything else, our reputation, how much money we have, what other people do, and even the final outcome of our efforts is external and not truly in our control. And the fear of failure. It's almost always a fear of things outside of our control. We're afraid of getting rejected for a job. We're afraid our business idea won't make money. We're afraid someone won't like us. The Stoic hack is to relentlessly, ruthlessly focus your energy only on what you can control. Think of an archer. She controls her training, how she maintains her bow, and how she calms her breath before letting the arrow fly. But she can't control a sudden gust of wind. Does that gust of wind make her a failed archer? Of course not. Her success was locked in the moment she released the arrow, having done everything in her power to make it a great shot. The outcome is just an outcome. Here's how you can use this today. Before you tackle anything that makes you anxious, grab a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On one side, list everything you can control: your preparation, your effort, your attitude, how you react to setbacks. On the other side, list everything you can't: the final decision, other people's opinions, market conditions. Now, pour every ounce of your energy into that first column. That's your territory, your inner citadel. As for the second column, acknowledge it, accept it, and then let it go. When you do this, you detach your self-worth from uncontrollable outcomes. Failure, the external result, can't touch you anymore. You didn't fail. You just produced a result which you can now learn from. And that brings us to our next tool. Next up, hack 2, rehearse for disaster, Premeditatio, Malorum. Okay, this next technique sounds a little dark, I'll admit, but it is one of the most powerful tools for building unshakable resilience. The Stoics called it Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. The Roman philosopher Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in the empire, practiced this daily. He would intentionally visualize worst-case scenarios. What if he lost all his money? What if he was exiled? What if he lost the people he loved? He wrote, "Nothing happens to the wise man against his expectation." See, the point isn't to wallow in anxiety. It's twofold. First, it vaccinates you against the shock of failure. By mentally walking through potential disasters, you strip them of their power to surprise you. Second, and more importantly, it makes you incredibly grateful for what you have right now. When you really imagine losing your job, you start to appreciate the work you have today. When you contemplate a project failing, you appreciate the opportunity you have to even try. Modern entrepreneur Tim Ferriss created an exercise called fear setting, which takes a page straight out of Seneca's playbook. He suggests you define your nightmare. What is the absolute worst that could happen if you tried and failed? Then ask yourself, how could I prevent this, or at least minimize the damage? And finally, if the worst did happen, what specific steps would I take to get back on my feet? When you lay it all out, you often realize the worst-case scenario isn't nearly as scary as the vague monster in your head, or that it's something you could absolutely survive. You build the courage to act, not because you're certain you'll succeed, but because you're no longer terrified of failing. Next up, hack 3. The obstacle is the way. And that brings us to our third hack from arguably the most powerful man of his time, the Roman Emperor, Marcus Aurelius. This was a guy dealing with war plagues and political backstabbing on a daily basis. He captured his private thoughts in a journal we now call Meditations, and in it, he gives us maybe the most famous Stoic idea of all. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Let that sink in. It's a complete 180 from how we usually see failure. We get a rejection letter, a bad review, or a flawed product, and we see a dead end, a wall. Marcus Aurelius tells us to see it as the raw material for our success. The obstacle isn't blocking your path. The obstacle is the path. Every failure contains a lesson. That rejection letter teaches you how to write a better application. That critical comment, if you can get past the sting, might hold a key to making your work stronger. A business that goes under provides an expensive but invaluable education in what not to do. The Stoics saw failure as a chance to practice virtue. When someone is rude to you, it's a chance to practice patience. When a project collapses, it's a chance to practice resilience. When you're criticized, it's a chance to practice humility. In this light, failure stops being a mark against you and becomes a training ground for your character. So the next time you fail, don't just brush it off. Interrogate it. Ask, what can this teach me? What virtue is this asking me to practice? How can I use this as fuel? You transform failure from a curse into a blessing, a stumbling block into a stepping stone. And now, hack 4. Practice getting uncomfortable, voluntary discomfort. The Stoics knew that courage is a muscle. It gets stronger with use and weaker with disuse. So to build up resilience against the big fears in life like failure, they practiced with smaller, manageable hardships. This is the idea of voluntary discomfort. Seneca, despite his immense wealth, would sometimes sleep on a hard floor, eat simple food, or wear his plainest clothes for a few days. He wasn't punishing himself. He was training himself. He was proving that he could not only survive misfortune, but that it wasn't as bad as his fear told him it was. He was basically asking himself, is this what I was so afraid of? And realizing the answer was no. In the context of fearing failure, this means deliberately taking on small challenges where failure is likely, but the stakes are low. Try a new hobby you know you'll be terrible at first. Volunteer for a low-stakes presentation. Go to a party where you don't know anyone. Every single time you step out of your comfort zone and realize you're okay, you're building evidence of your own resilience. You're teaching your nervous system that anxiety isn't always a true signal of danger. You start to see that the discomfort of trying is way less painful than the regret of not trying at all. Start small. Pick one thing this week that makes you just a little uncomfortable. Do it, then do it again. You're building your courage one small act at a time, so that when a big opportunity shows up, that fear of failure will be a much quieter voice in your head. These ancient ideas aren't just philosophy. They are a practical toolkit for a better life. If you're finding this useful and want to keep exploring how to build a more resilient and peaceful mind, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And now, I have a question for you. Which one of these hacks resonates with you the most right now? Let me know in the comments below. Reading your experiences helps all of us learn and grow together. And finally, hack 5. Remember, you will die. Memento Mori. This final hack is the most profound, and in many ways, the ultimate cure for the fear of failure. The Stoics had a constant reminder for themselves, Memento Mori. Remember, you will die. Now this sounds morbid, but for the Stoics, it was the exact opposite. It was a call to live. Thinking about the fact that your time is limited is the ultimate tool for getting your priorities straight. When you truly grasp that your life is just a brief, fleeting moment, the fears that seem so huge, the fear of embarrassment, of rejection, of failing at one project, they all shrink down to their proper size. As Seneca said, thinking about our mortality helps us balance life's books each day. Are you really going to let the fear of what someone might think stop you from writing that book, starting that business, or telling someone how you feel? On the scale of a lifetime, most of our failures are completely trivial. What isn't trivial is a life lived in the shadow of fear. A life of inaction. A life of quiet regret for all the chances you never took. So when you feel that fear of failure creeping in, use this ultimate hack. Ask yourself, on my deathbed, am I going to care more about this one specific failure? Or am I going to care more about the fact that I never even tried? The answer is almost always the same. This perspective doesn't make fear disappear, but it gives you the courage to act in spite of it. It pushes you to live with purpose, take smart risks, and not waste the precious time you have on the small anxiety of messing up. So let's bring it all home. 5 Stoic hacks to stop letting the fear of failure run your life. First, focus only on what you can control: your effort and your attitude. Let the outcome go. Second, rehearse for setbacks with negative visualization to build resilience and appreciate the present. Third, reframe every failure as an opportunity. Remember, the obstacle is the way. Fourth, build your courage muscle by practicing voluntary discomfort. And finally, use the ultimate perspective shift, Memento Mori. Remember, you will die, so choose to live fully and without regret. The fear of failure isn't something you beat once and for all. It's a companion you learn to walk with. But with these tools, you no longer have to let it lead. You can acknowledge it, thank it for trying to keep you safe, and then calmly choose the path of courage anyway. Because as the Stoics knew 2,000 years ago, a life without failure is a life without growth, and a life without courage is a life half lived.